Welcome everyone, and welcome to part 3 with beautiful Nika Kozyra, founder of STOLAT Wellness. This month of June we are dedicating to mental, emotional, spiritual and physical wellness. This is why together with Nika we decided it would be a great idea to not do just one episode packed with fast track information, but as Nika actually suggested, we will meet more and dive deeper in specific subjects. Welcome, Nika, and happy to have you with us again.
Likewise, Magdalena, let's do it.
I think today will be a very picky, tricky, shady subject. Vulnerability. Gaps in our literacy for emotional expression, the crisis that we do have in communication. And I think our mental health, our overall well-being is somehow hanging on that pillar, communication. What's the communication for us in life?
Mhm. I mean, I think everyone communicates in various ways, right? You have people who are more expressive, you have people who are not as expressive. I think the most important thing about communication is that it's honest, it's open, it's transparent, and that it's vulnerable. And the hardest part about communication is the vulnerable part, because we are kind of taught since a little kid to, oh, don't say that, it's rude. Or, oh, no, you can't say that to that person because of this, this, that, and the third. So we're kind of trained to watch what we say, minimize what we say, and sometimes what we even mean. And I think that becomes harder, especially in intimate relationships, because you're kind of trained to just tell people the right thing or the nice thing, not the honest thing. For example, for me, I'm brutally honest, and I've been told many times in my life that I'm mean because I'm just honest. And I remember always getting in trouble with it as a kid, like, oh, you can't tell Chocha that, or I can't believe you said, told Babcha this, right? And I'd be like, what do you mean? I'm just being honest. I'm just a little kid, being honest. And the more I realized as a child growing up that I've been lied to so many times, the more and more I stuck to just being brutally honest. And I realized I was always brutally honest about many things in my life. And I would be honest about, let's say, mistakes that I made, or, how I could have done something better. But I was never vulnerable. I was never vulnerable in that conversation. Right. And therefore, even when I was communicating stuff to somebody about, let's say, my past experience, because that vulnerability wasn't in there, that connection therefore wasn't there. I think vulnerability is that bridge in communication that links two people together in order for them to truly understand what it's like you're saying. And I actually did this example with somebody a few weeks ago where they have a problem communicating. They're also a coach, and they have a problem saying that they have a problem connecting to their client. And I said, well, are you vulnerable? And they looked at me like, what does that matter? And I said, well, no one's going to feel comfortable with you if you don't learn to be comfortable with them. So I have to put my heart out on my sleeve, and I have to say the things that should not be said out loud, or the things that are hurtful and painful to me, because that's what makes my client feel okay. They put themselves out there. I can put myself out there too. It's really the bridge, in my opinion,
Like
of communication.
it's kind of emotional contract. Yes, an invitation. When we become vulnerable, we are inviting people, do with me that contract. Let's build together the psychological safety, programming, training when we are kids. It's a long time. When we are considering the childhood, it's from 0 to 18, sometimes even longer. We can't ignore that this constant programming and placing in us This is not how you should say. This is not how you should do. Don't cry. It's not a problem. Don't make drama. So if we are actually functioning in this kind of scheme, it becomes the part of our life, right? And it's a nature. It becomes our simply a nature that we don't show our emotions. In communication, we are in this particular way because we are functioning on that program F1 P control shift. Yes. And suddenly we go into adult world and people are speaking different language. It's behavior communication. We don't know sometimes how to deal with people who speak different.
Absolutely. Well, you know, it's interesting because I just did a summit yesterday and they posed a really good question about like leadership and about being a business owner and one thing that I needed to learn or I needed to change. And the number one thing for me was I needed to learn to be a little softer and more sensitive when I was dealing with people, whether I wouldn't necessarily say a client, but when I was dealing, let's say, with another business owner about a partnership about something or something like
Mm-hmm.
that, because, you know, Polish people overall, we're a little more stoic. We're a little, you know, a little rougher, right? Like culturally, we're not these warm, fuzzy, huggy type of personalities, right? And we're not a warm, fuzzy
Yes.
culture, right? So now you're dealing with people from different cultures who are different and a little bit more expressive in other ways. And for me, I'm like, no one has time for feelings. Boom, boom, boom. Let's get it done. Why isn't this delivered yet? Like, why is this order not fulfilled? Boom, boom, boom. And I had to realize I needed, it's my responsibility as the communicator to deliver my message. So if that means I need to change or modify my communication style to deliver my message better to the person who's supposed to be receiving the message, then that's what I need to do. Because
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with modifying it and understanding, okay, maybe this person doesn't get it. And I use a simple example of a little child. You're not going to tell a 2-year old, oh my goodness, how did you didn't develop the emotional intelligence of that situation? They're going to be like, Dada, what are you talking about? Right?
That's
You have
true.
to get down to the 2-year old's level and be like, listen, this wasn't nice.
Mm.
Okay? We don't do this because when you, right? And it's not like you're talking to the kid that they're dumb. You're talking to them in the level and the language that they can receive, that they can understand. And I think a lot of the times we are not cognizant of people, of how they communicate. You know,
Mm.
for example, I'm a big personality. I'm very like no nonsense, loud and in charge and yada, yada, yada. But I don't do well if people start yelling at me. I don't do well if someone just starts to yell at me and wants to, you know, basically kind of bully me because you, instead of communicating, now you make me feel like now we're fighting. Now the gloves have to get put back on. Now we're ready. So instead of communicating, now I feel like I'm ready. Like, let's go. I do much better when someone just says, hey, I didn't like this or this hurt my feelings. Fully receive it. Don't put me in a position where I feel like I need to defend myself. And, you know, a lot of people, because your amygdala has that fight, flight, and freeze response. And people don't know that that doesn't only have to do with physical danger. That has to do with anytime you're in danger or you feel like you're in danger. Most people freeze. And those are what I call like the people pleasers, the people who are like, they don't want any problem. They're going to let you talk to them
Yes.
however you want to talk to them. And that's like well over 60% of people freeze. Okay. Okay. I don't want any problems. Okay. Whatever. They're the ones who get, you know, they get called the pushovers,
Yeah.
right? They get called the,
How many sugar cubes I shall add to your tea, right?
yeah, right. Then you have the people who flight. Oh my God, I'm uncomfortable. I gotta go, right? And that's like 20 to 30% of the population. Gotta go. Okay, no, this is uncomfortable. Okay, can't handle it. Life is
Mm.
nope, too much. I'm running away. Those are they're the forever runaway brides, right? They're the people who are running away, never can't deal with, no, it's a can't deal, the brain wires can't deal with it. Then you have the fighters. And it's a small percentage of the fighters. But we are the ones who've always had to fight. And we go into that default so quickly to fight that I had to learn that not everyone is trying to fight me, because that's all I've known. I always would say that I spent so many years of my life with my gloves on, you know, always ready to fight. Didn't even have to give me a full reason, just give me maybe a little reason. And I was ready because I was always in fight mode.
Mm.
And I think even sitting back with yourself and wondering, wait a minute, what category am I in? Like, how do I respond? And being honest about it. Are you running away? Are you fighting? Are you freezing? And then where emotional intelligence, where emotional growth happens, is saying, okay, what can I do? How should I change it? So for me,
Mm.
what I had to learn is when I start to feel like, oh, the gloves have to go back on, I fight with myself and I go, and this didn't happen overnight, right?
Of course.
I had to tell people, once again, tapping into vulnerability, hey, you're triggering me. You're triggering me. The way
Mm.
you're talking to me is making me feel like X, Y, and Z because of X, Y, and Z that happened.
I
I
love
want to
that.
hear what you're saying to me, but I am receiving this in this frame. I think the strongest thing I learned to do in any time I communicate with someone is not say, you did this, you said that, you hurt me. I go, I felt hurt.
Mm.
I felt like you did this. From where I'm standing, I believe you meant to say this. I don't put the risk burden on the other person. I put it on myself
Mm.
because then it's not an attack.
And it's somehow, for you as an individual, amazing step for the practice, because we can talk a lot, we can read a lot how to make the modification in the way how we are communicating with people. And let's also be honest that there is quite a lot of content and those, virtual teachings. You just need to be 1, 2, 3. But in the practice, like you said, it doesn't happen overnight.
Mm-mm.
In how one person who is going through that practice but is having a limited support from surrounding environment, how this person can effectively invite, come join me, let's learn, let's grow together.
Well, the thing is, I don't think like with anything else in life, you can force anyone to do anything.
Okay.
So, let's just use a relationship because that's always an easy concept.
Mm-hmm.
If both of us, both people, right, have been through trauma and we both have toxic tendencies, because we all have toxic tendencies. I have toxic tendencies, you have toxic tendencies. There's no one I've ever met who doesn't have toxic tendencies. The problem is when you're in denial about having toxic tendencies, right? So if you're not honest about your own stuff, who are you to tell anyone else what they should and shouldn't be doing? And it's just like, let's say if you and I were having a disagreement and I said, Magdalena, you made me feel, or, you did this to me, or you said this to me, you're going to feel constantly attacked. Once again, you're going to fight, flight, or freeze.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't matter what option you choose, none of it is going to be effective. If I say, Magdalena, I felt like the way you spoke to me was very disrespectful because I felt X, Y, and Z. You have two options. You either go, okay, you will go, well, F you then, right? Because that's not what I meant, which just means you're not really open to having a conversation where
Mm-hmm.
maybe you are to blame, I'm to blame, we're both to blame, right? Because people are so competitive. People always want to win versus saying, okay, Veronica, like, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that you felt, not that I made you feel, because that's not right. It's that I felt that you felt X, Y, and Z.
Mm.
And It's something that I've done with when I do couples counseling or if I do like family sessions where people are like, well, they did this and they said that and that's great. But how did it make you feel? And that goes right back to vulnerability. How honest are you at the fact that you felt that way? And then the other thing is with feelings is, was your emotional response really warranted for what happened?
Hmm.
Right? If the situation was a 5 and your emotional response was a 10, I don't really understand. There has to be some accountability on your end for why are you at a 5 blowing up at a 10. And I've literally, there was this girl that I knew, and she I have this thing with like very short people always have this like Napoleon, they always got a elbows out bullying thing. And I say that because my mother's 4'11, so I could fully say that as a 5'10 person. Okay, my mom always feels like she has to bully her way through stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
anytime, let's say she would complain to me about something or vent to me about something, and I am not someone who's just gonna agree with you. Yeah, no. Because if I don't agree with you, I don't agree with you. And she would always turn it into, I'm not validating her. And I'm not listening to her. And I said, no, I fully am listening to what you're saying. I respect what you're saying, but my experience with that person hasn't been that. So I'm not going to go and be like, oh, I hate this person now because you don't dislike this person. And anytime I would try to explain to her that you can talk to me about anything, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, yeah, F him and da 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 da. Like, no, I
Mm.
didn't have that experience. But because that person is choosing to take what I'm saying as I'm not validating them because I'm not agreeing with them, that means I'm not really her friend. If you want to take it there, I can't control that. If you are communicating with somebody who has not done self-reflection and hasn't noticed, hey, I need to work on stuff too, you kind of can't be, you can't be around. There's plenty of people in my life that are in my family, you know, that I have very limited conversations with for
Mm.
multiple reasons, because they're hurtful, because they're abusive, because they're toxic personalities. They're people who just feel like they could spew hatred and be mean and obviously your family knows out of everybody where to hurt you the most.
Yes.
I love them, but I love them from a distance.
Mm. I think that, especially, yes, it's not a joke when we say that the best place we look with the family is the picture, right? This is also very ironic. The family should be the place where we feel most safe. Yet, quite often, especially when we build our own family, there are already the shades that we are creating because we are afraid of losing. So we will do that freeze mode, people pleaser mode, believing that it's compromising. And compromising is very healthy. We don't see when we are stepping over the border because the longer we are in silencing our own need, more we are putting ourselves in a shadow. And then what are my needs? We feel quite often not understood, not being seen, but at the same time, I think it will be a different dimension of vulnerability. We are not, or maybe we don't want to, look in the mirror and say, I put you in the corner. I am responsible that no one is seeing you because I put you in the corner.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All the time. People are mad about their own existences that they create. People are angry at the world for why they are not where they want to be, how they want to be, how they're treated, how they're respected in this world. But when it's the time to raise your hand and make and have something to say, no one ever has anything to say, right? They put their head in the sand and they hide because it's so much more comfortable avoiding, freezing, or running away, or fighting like where it's just now a fight versus actually owning your own crap. And I see this so often, and it's not specific to women and it's not specific to men. I mean, the amount of male clients that I work with who literally are like, yeah, no, I can't tell my wife that, or I can't tell my girlfriend that. Why? Oh, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a fight. I don't want to hear it.
Mm.
So let me get this straight. This is someone you sleep next to every night. This is your significant other. You have children with this person, but you can't tell your wife that you hate going to dinner at this place that she thinks is your favorite place.
Mm.
Like, I mean, that's something fundamentally wrong. And it goes back to the family structure, right? Because these are the roles that you
Mm.
have seen your parents do, right? If 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 people are 30 plus, because there's an amazing thing that happens like after 32. And for men, it's around 35. Women by 32, women, men around 35. Where if by the time you're hitting that mid 30s point and you're not realizing that 90% of the way that you are or the way that you aren't is solely because of your upbringing, it's the nurture and the nature that you experience for the first 2 decades of your life. And then
Mm.
all those bad relationships or bad situations that you did in your 20s is a expression of that, then you're just in complete denial. I have never met a single person who is not a complete reflection of what they grew up in. Now, I'm not saying you can't work on it. I'm not saying you can't break away from it. I'm not saying you can't break the cycle of it. But you are fundamentally, when you start hitting your 30s, you're a complete robot in a way of what your childhood was like. And this is why people, right, tend to pick partners who
Based
are
on
like one of their parents.
it would be a great idea when we are end of high school or beginning of university as a mandatory course or subject within the syllabus that they are going through the checklist of the childhood, do a review, identify area that make us risky or risk in your future, because right now you are about to enter into adulthood where the reality is very different and you shall operate on different mechanisms. So do the checkup, give yourself a time to work on it, so when you become 25, let's say, you are equipped with the right tools, with right knowledge. I don't say you are a better version of yourself, but you are prepared how to
I think,
modify the patterns from the past, for example.
I think that's a great idea, but the brain is developed at that stage in your 20s already,
Mm.
and your emotional uh the emotional brain is kind of set. But I think in a lot of ways, just being someone who's extremely spiritual, I think you're meant to go through what you're meant to go through. And I think it's those experiences that shape you to be the better version of you. And I think we all have to go through kind of in a way like our own Hunger Games, our own trials and tribulations. And this is something I kind of fight with a lot within myself and within, my business and my coaching and my clients is I would love to get to children at an earlier age and prevent them from going through any of these traumas and, pains and
Mm.
such. But then on a philosophical question, is now that tinkering with the grand plan, right? I would love to never meet another person who's been molested. I would love to never meet another person who's been raped, who's been a child of sex trafficking or, of abuse, right? But on a philosophical, question, is that tinkering with what that person is meant to go through in order to become and blossom and their biggest thing? Because when I look at my own journey, if I didn't go through 30 plus years of hell in so many ways, and literally at 35, when I literally started to feel like I was blossoming and I could breathe and I could sleep and you know, I don't I don't know if I would have gotten to be this person. I definitely wouldn't have been able to be as impactful of a coach as I am because
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't relate to all the other people who are going through it. So in a philosophical sense, I don't know, is that the right place to kind of play with, if that makes sense? Right? Because we
Isn't
don't
it?
ever want it.
I have troubles recently with this philosophy, honestly, that we need to live our own life. And even today, I had a discussion with another mother, a colleague from my son, and they need to live their own life and they need to experience their own mistakes. And I am in a conflict inside because we somehow adapted that into our sociological concept. And we repeated that like a mantra that kids will never listen to us. Kids will never respect what other adults will tell them, will guide them. They need to live their own life. They need to learn on their mistakes. But how many people lost a hell of time in their life because we are hanging on this old mantra, they need to learn their own life.
Okay, but then so I fully understand what you're saying because I ponder about the same thing. Would If I met someone like me coaching me 20 years ago, where would I be? The assumption is that you would be in a better place, but
Mm,
that's the assumption,
yes,
right? And it's the same thing. We've had these conversations before about like people saying, like, for me, I'm always strong. Yeah, I'm not strong because I woke up like I want to be strong. It's because I had no choice.
exactly.
I think one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard is, you know, learning the skill set of walking through the fire and not smelling like smoke.
Mm,
And that takes time, right? That takes practice. So, on one hand, yes, of course, you want to protect these children, which will then eventually become adults.
mm,
And yeah, I would love to take out every single child predator, every rapist, everyone who's ever hurt any child or animal on this planet. And I definitely feel like that as a society is something we should go to do. But there's so many other traumas that people go through. Not everybody's experience is as egregious. Not everyone's childhood is of molestation, of child abuse.
mm-hmm.
Some
There
people
are
just
this,
grow up,
I call
some
it trauma that comes from pathology in white gloves.
yeah, like some people have severe trauma because their mother was too busy just being an alcoholic all day, functioning
Mm,
alcoholic, right? Some
yes.
people grow up in a household where their mother was too busy going to her, yoga classes to
Mm,
care if the child existed. They were raised by nannies. So not everyone's trauma is this egregious ball of evil, I guess you can say, right?
mhm.
There's a spectrum of trauma, but it
Absolutely.
doesn't but it doesn't mean that that spectrum of trauma weighs differently on a person, right?
Mm,
As a child being ignored, having no one to pay attention to you, that is as traumatic as someone who was abused physically every day
mm.
by their parent.
Yes, the
But we don't,
outcome
right?
will
Because the
be,
outcome is the same,
yes, I
right?
am broken.
I'm
I'm
broken.
broken.
I'm
Yes.
broken. I don't know how to function. I don't know how to communicate. And now you go through this journey. And once again, this brings me back to like that philosophical point. I think everyone has a journey to take. I think, I believe, not think, I believe at this stage in the game of everything I went through, I needed to go through it to reach this level of spirituality. I really see life and I vibrate in such a different state of consciousness in so many ways. And I'm not by any means better or
Mm.
more like skill sets are better than anybody else's. I just chose to want better. And when I started to learn better and do better, and I knew better, and now I live better. But I had to know the bad, right? Like you can't know the good without the bad. And I've seen this actually with a few clients who had great childhoods, great 20s, 30s, whatever. And now something happens where, let's say, one of the partners gets sick, or, they lose their jobs or something like that. And they like don't have the skill sets, the survival skill sets to get through because it's the first time in life that they're really experiencing something bad and traumatic. Whereas people like myself who have known nothing but trauma, that's like, ah, that's like a
Chill.
little intermission. Yeah, you
Yeah.
know, and it's not good or bad. It's just the different journey that I think
Different. Yes.
we need to take.
We are equipped, maybe not with different tools. We might have the same tools, but yeah, in some people's life, they are like, in an analogy, metaphoric way. They will always keep hanging on the wall while we are maneuvering them from one pocket to another pocket. Yes. And so, which comes first? The
Mm-hmm.
box glove or the hammer? Yes, because I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how strong the wall is in front of me. You work with men and women. From your experience and observation, who is more willing to become vulnerable?
So men and women are vulnerable in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Men for the most part are, and I always use this concept of telling someone that you love them. If you told a man today, May 23rd at 13:47 hours Eastern, I love you, he's going to find a rock or a tree and he's going to say, Veronica said she loved me on May 23rd at 13:47. And that's forever. In his world, he, what do you mean? A man tells me he loves me, he needs to tell me today. He needs to tell me 2 hours from now. He needs to tell me tomorrow. I need to hear it. I don't hear it. That means I assume that you don't, right? We're psychologically wired differently as
Mm-hmm.
men and women. I think a man has a greater need to be vulnerable than a woman does and doesn't know how to do it because it's not societally accepted. Because a man, a
Mm-hmm.
real man, feels their obligation is to provide and to protect. That is their natural instinct. That is where they shine, right? And if you think about it, if we talk about it in a primal way, a man can't walk out the door and be just the biggest wussy and weak because other men will smell that and they're going to come grab what's theirs. So men have to always be kind of armored up, right? And walk through this door and walk through life like ready for anything, The only time that they're vulnerable is usually with their women. I've dated men that you would see and you'd be like, wow, they're mean. Ooh, no, biggest babies, right? Because I was their safe place and I was their safe space. And the thing is, men are not as communicators as you and I are. You and I can sit and we could talk for days,
Yes.
right? But women need to do a better job of listening to what is being said by their man, right? Because men are not going to sit and have an hour long chit chat about their feelings. They're going to say a couple of sentences because they keep it very concise, very brief, very to the point. So as a woman, and this is something, I've always felt grateful for because having so many men around me, I've learned to listen to what they say and then ask them to kind of clarify or explain themselves a little bit
Mm.
more, but not in like a 21 questions, I'm investigating you, what happened, why did it, it's more like, how did it make you feel? Well, did you think maybe it was because of that? Or do you think this could have maybe changed? As women, we are naturally the talkers. So we have to learn to talk in a way that we leave an open sentence, not multiple choice when we talk to men, right?
That's
Keep it.
so true. We have this tendency, and actually, uh, from the learning perspective, uh, if the question contains two questions, it's a wrongly stated question. Question must be one. Then we can focus on the answer accordingly. And yes, at the beginning, or out of camera, off the camera, you said waterfall. We are, and I use that word too. We women have that specifically talent that we talk. It can be from our nature when we will meet with girls, ta 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 ta
Yes,
ta ta ta
for
ta.
hours.
And somehow we are forgetting men are not wired that way.
Mhm.
Yes, they will give us space to sit on the couch next to them and ta 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 ta. But we are doing a little mistake when we expect to join us and give the same amount of waterfall. We should be grateful that they let us be a waterfall, patiently listening, but then going back to vulnerability and talking about some matters that are important to be resolved. We are triggered with the anger, and this is what is happening.
Well, because I mean that there's a big difference between talking with someone and talking at someone. So I mean, I'm not a patient person, and as we've discussed, sometimes having female relationships is difficult for me because I don't understand how someone can talk for 2 hours about the same one concept in 50 different versions of it because
Mm.
I'm more like my masculine energy is more like we have a problem, let's figure out how to solve it and let's fix it. And that's usually how men operate. So, yeah, I've learned and I've developed a skill set to blah 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 blah. And I get like that too. Like sometimes you need to blah 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 blah. But then you have to ask yourself the question is, do you just want to blah 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 blah? Or do you want solutions?
Mm.
And you know what? I've had to actually say to my female friends, do you want my advice or do you just want to talk? Because if you want my advice, let's get to it. If you just want to talk and vent, cool. Now I know that's the brain I need to be operating from. And women get frustrated because let's say they had a bad day. And instead of just telling their partner, babe, this is what happened, they want to tell them their entire day from A to Z. I woke up, I had this is what happened at the coffee. Like men tuned out already, tuned out, tuned out. They're tuned out, right? And it's not a right or a wrong way to be. It's just understanding, okay, maybe these are the little tiny things I'm not really cognizant of. Because the other fold of it is, I've never been a man. I've been fortunate to be around men and been fortunate to have great relationships with men. So I know this from men, but I've never experienced being a man. So a man has never been experienced being a woman. And I think in romantic relationships, especially, it's so important to understand that there are these beautiful differences within the partnership, which are positive.
Mm.
Because in a healthy relationship, I'm teaching him to talk more, and he's maybe teaching me to talk a little bit less in the sense of being more direct and productive with my communication.
And balance this kind of this emotional literacy, because the talking more is usually due to the emotional aspect activated in us, while men are rational. That's why they are just speaking somehow from our perspective in a shortcut, because it will be 1 2 sentences, solution is there, dot, can we move, right?
Mm.
And like you say, we can develop this together and not kill it with our expectations to be other person in front of us like us, but to learn from each other and give ourselves space. Silence is a gold. This is what we say. Maybe we should actually play the words a bit differently. Listening is gold.
active listening, like letting your partner know you're listening. Because I mean, I could sit here and I could be thinking of 1,000 things as you're talking and just, I'm listening, but I'm not actively listening. I'm not actually engaging. I'm not absorbing what is being said to me. So, I think when it goes back to the concept of vulnerability, men and women just are different and we express that vulnerability differently. Women tend to also be emotionally more expressive, right? Like we talked in the past with the example of women will get pretty, dressed up, go to a restaurant, and someone is crying in their martini at the end of the night. And oh, it's okay, it's fine. You can go. Not a single person would bat their eyeball in the entire restaurant that a woman is crying. Strangers, other people walking by, no one. Okay, cool, right? If a man, though, whoa, what's happening? What's going on? Because men, oh, I'm having a bad day, or, this happened. And then it's, yeah, cool. Did you see the game? Okay, great, right? And
That's
that's
so true.
unfortunately, that's not something you can control as far as the way it's been kind of societally accepted.
That's so
But you can change it for the future generations. Now, do I think a man will ever be comfortable to just cry in public that way? No, but maybe, maybe we just haven't seen it yet. Maybe this generation below us is a little different.
From the woman perspective, we see the man as the strong one, with the mental, rational health, very strong, that we can lean. And at the same time, we are seeing this weakness in sociological environment that we are not allowing men to have their bad days.
Well, I mean, I'll give you an example, right? As a police officer, would you feel comfortable if I was sitting there crying about something? Absolutely not. Because I'm supposed to be the pillar of strength, right? I'm supposed to be the one you run to. I'm supposed to be the one that you get your problem resolution out of me. And at the end of the day, being a strong woman or not, I don't believe in my personal opinion that there is a larger compliment as a strong woman and as a very independent female that I could pay a man than submitting to him.
Mm.
Me submitting to my man, and I don't, you can demonize that word all you want, right? So for some people but submitting to me means putting down my armor, letting him be the one that I can fall apart in front of, letting him let me, leading, you know what I mean, into situations, and just me kind of being able to be in the role that fits me the best, which is the supporter, the nurturer. I
Mm.
mean, I'm a great alpha female and I got my own and I'm independent and I'm very much a provider and protector. And I'm great at that. But a man is naturally greater than me on that. A real man will be naturally greater than me on that. And I don't have a problem saying that. I don't I don't feel that there needs to be this competition. It doesn't take away my strength by admitting somebody is stronger and better at something than me.
It's vulnerability in practice, I think. Alone you can do a lot. Together you can do more.
100%.
And by the science, by the nature, we have been created to live together, not alone. If we are able to survive alone, that's great, that's amazing. But like you said, putting your weapons down because you come home and you are willing to be led, you are ready to be led. That's a beautiful moment, and I believe everyone, either man or woman, would like to experience really to have this psychological safety in the house, how to break the shield and to become vulnerable.
I think the first step is understanding you can't break something you're not aware of having. So sometimes you have to own your own stuff and be like, damn, okay, maybe I got to work on some stuff. Maybe I'm not as perfect as I think I am, you know? Like for me personally, I chose a long time ago I wasn't going to be a victim. Then I decided, Okay, I'm a survivor. Kept putting myself into positions that I kept having to survive. Then I realized, man, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted of constantly fighting new battles, right? Then when I decided I wasn't going to be a survivor anymore, I said, okay, so who am I now? Oh, damn, I got a lot to unpack. I got a lot of things that I need to be honest with myself about. And the biggest thing for me was owning the fact that I had work to do and then doing the work to be better.
Mm.
Like my only competition every day is myself. I really don't care what other people are doing around me. I know where I want to be. I know where I was. I don't ever want to go back to those dark places and dark moments again in my life. I want to go and I want to be in the light. I've spent so many years in the dark. So I think if anyone is looking to make a change, and if your communication style is not effective, or if you're always getting offended or upset about any time anyone says anything, you got to own the fact that you have some unpacking to do, right? Because you can't fix a problem that you're not aware of. So the first step is knowing there is something. And then the second thing is understanding, why are you triggered? Okay, so now I know I have a problem. The second step is, why am I being triggered by these situations?
Mm.
What happened to me in the past that I am still living in that essence? So, what a lot of people don't realize about their own traumas is that they keep re traumatizing themselves on a regular basis because they are not honest about the things or the thing that happened or the things that are happened to them or around them and how it's affecting them to this day. And a lot of their responses are just reactions because so many people live or don't live, act or don't react around certain situations, literally because of the things they went through. And that's not really being authentically who
Yeah.
they are meant to be.
Dear audience, that's the heavy subject, vulnerability. A lot of to do, I have no doubts, for all of us, especially from the wisdom that Nika has shared with us today. It's always one thing. It's not them, it's you, it's I. It starts with us as individual. As Nika has said to us, learn, understand, and grow. Nika, again, thank you so much for all your wisdom you have shared with us.
Thank you.